ダメダメダメよダメなのよあんたが好きで好きすぎてどれだけ強いを
Why I love the Yakuza series. Let me count the ways. This is something I've been wanting to do for a while, and this is just something off the cuff, like I've been trying to do lately, just to talk about the Yakuza series and be like, man, if you're not playing this shit, what are you doing? What are you doing? So Yakuza, if you don't know what the Yakuza series is, it's a Sega series that's been running since 2005, primarily just kind of a 3D beat 'em up kind of game mixed in with a very dramatic, engaging story, great cast of characters, and all that great stuff. The series kind of got a bad rap for early in the beginning because it was marketed as like a Japanese Grand Theft Auto, which is definitely not what this series is. I could see if you looked at both games surface level, you could kind of draw a little comparison, but that's not accurate. And another way this series gets compared is it's often called the spiritual successor to the Shenmue games from Sega, and I think that one holds more water, but they're still two very different things. And I just want to talk about why I like this series so much, and the reasons why I like this series is it largely falls in line with why every diehard Yakuza fan loves the series, right? But I just wanted to talk and give something freeform and just get that out there and just really just speak from the heart on this to try. If one person tries Yakuza from this video, I'm happy. You know, that's basically my mission's goal here, is just to like put my story with the series out there and hope someone else like feels that passion and is like, well damn, I want to feel that, let's play some Yakuza. So the reasons why I like Yakuza, like I mentioned, one thing that I really appreciate about the series is that it tells a very great story from the entries I've played. So far I've played Yakuza Kiwami, which is the remake of the first game. I've played Yakuza 3, or I beat Yakuza Kiwami, I should say. I beat Yakuza 3, I beat Yakuza 4, I've got 20 hours in Yakuza 5, and I've beaten Yakuza 0, which is the recent prequel to everything in the series. Probably also accurate to say that I platinumed Yakuza 4, and I'm kind of chipping away at the Yakuza 0 and Kiwami platinums in my spare time, and just kind of hitting those up every now and then, doing a few miscellaneous tasks to try and get closer to that, because I like having the platinum in 4, and I'd like to get them for everything else. So, with that said, Yakuza Kiwami's story didn't blow me away as much, but also it's the first game, so as someone who kind of worked their way backwards in the series, sorta, it was really interesting to see where all that started. But the two games that really stood out to me for having like fantastic, memorable stories are Yakuza 4 and Yakuza 0. Yakuza 4 was actually my introduction to the series. It was the first one I played. And it's a weird place to start for Yakuza because it had 3 new lead characters to play through, and each had their own stories. You kind of took it character by character. So one character story would conclude and they'd be done with, and you'd move on to the next character. And the series' actual consistent lead protagonist, Kazuma Kiryu, was actually the last character you played as there. So in a way, it was a great place to start because at first I didn't really have to... Baggage is a negative term, I think, but I didn't have to know everything that happened in the series up to that point. I could just jump in with this new character and this new thing, and that's great. But the game also tied into the older games a lot, and in that way I kind of wish I hadn't started with 4, but also 4 was just the magic one that got me into the series, so it was kind of a, it got me interested enough to check out the rest of the series. So overall, net positive. Yakuza 4 tells the story of 4 very different people who have their own stories that at first you're kind of like, how is this all connected? But as the game goes on, you realize it's all very connected, and it all meets together at the end for a very powerful climax. Yakuza 0 takes things back to the 1980s for the series, which is way before anything, and just actually kind of shrugs off all that additional stuff and is like, you know what, let's just tell this kind of more personal, simple story for two very important characters in the series, and it helps give some time to characters from the first couple games that didn't get that much time in their own games, and similarly, it very much is its own thing, but it also enhances the series by existing. And when I try to sell this game to friends, a way I kind of explain it is like, if you like Metal Gear Solid and how narrative heavy those games are and how they tie into each other in weird ways, Yakuza is not exactly comparable, but when I think of Metal Gear Solid, I think of these stupid elaborate plot lines with characters I really, really like, and I love watching age and progress and interact with other characters and following their exploits. And to me, Yakuza is very similar. I really love those characters and seeing everything they do and how they've aged and what they've learned and things like that. Yakuza is like my soap opera, you know. Every time a Yakuza game comes out, I gotta tune in and check my stories, right? I gotta know what's going on. I gotta know what's going on in the city. I gotta know how Date's doing. Hope Akiyama's doing all right. Like, I just gotta know what's up with these characters. And I'd say, out of all the game stories I've experienced, they're definitely the ones that stick with me the most. Every now and then, I kind of phase out, and I think back to the Yakuza 4 plot or the Yakuza 0 plot. Those are my favorite stories in the series, and I just think, like, damn, I was so invested in that. Like, I cried at the end of Yakuza 4. I'm not afraid to admit it. I cried at the end of Yakuza 0. Like, those games, they're not Shakespeare. I'm not going to say the writing's like incredible or genre defying or any huge praise like that, but they know how to tell a really gripping dramatic story, and they do it well. And in later entries, the characters' faces are mocapped. The actors just really know how to sell a character and what they're doing, even in a language I don't understand, Only the PS2 release of the first game had an English dubbing, and everything else has been Japanese, but I get so into it, and all the little character quirks. It's all just great, and there's so much attention to detail. It really is just very, very special and unique, especially in Sega's stable. Yakuza is pretty much one of the best things they got going on right now, if not the best thing. As someone who really loves Sega, like, Yakuza has basically been a godsend, because it's like, it feels very Sega, but also feels very unique. It feels like the kind of game that could only come from them, but it also feels so just apart from everything else they produce, that it's just something really special. They're actually quite low budget games that reuse a lot of assets, and that actually winds up being part of the charm, but I'll get back on that later. One of the things that really helps sell the story for me are these characters with these hearts of gold that, even when the going gets tough, they do what's right, and it's just so refreshing to see characters that aren't like overly cynical or edgy or things like that. Like, they're very, they're exaggerated, like Japanese crime dudes, but there's, the main characters still are kind, affectionate, caring people that will do what's right, and I love it. I can't get enough of it. It's like, it's just so nice to know that no matter what happens in these games, you're playing someone that's most likely going to do what's right, And I very much buy into this false naivety fictional universe of Japan they've created, where, yeah, there are these big bad Yakuza organizations, but, there are major players in them who are doing what's right and not just total sleazebags, and they're going to set the sleazebag straight. I love it. I can't get enough of it. I'm always rooting for the main characters. I'm always ready to see what's next, and just stuff like that. It's hard to talk about the stories without actually spoiling them, but if you jump into Yakuza 0, I really think you'll find a story there that you'll really care about and you'll really want to see to the end. Just, God, what a good game. These games also just have a really great sense of style and atmosphere. The cutscenes are very well done, particularly in later games, but also the city just feels great. Like, Kamurocho is the main city, and that at night with the streetlights reflecting and puddles of water and everything, and mixed in with the music and like you know, all the audio design of like the chatter of people and stuff like that, or running by shops and like you hear their theme songs playing, or you run by the, you know, the bowling alley and you hear pins being knocked over. Like, the city just has a great feel, and you know, these games aren't afraid to go a little wild, especially in some of the combat stuff, and they'll kind of break the grounded realism some of the series has, but it's always in a fun way that you can really get hyped and excited about. And God, I love Yakuza. So in addition to these very serious main narratives that are super, super dramatic, there are also a bunch of lighthearted side quests that are very goofy, and you get these like rigid, stone-like, manly lead characters, but you also get seeing them in weird situations, right? I can think of, I think it's in Yakuza 0, one of the early side quests is you can meet this dominatrix lady who's not very good at her job, and she's not comfortable, and she's like, can you just help me learn how to talk down to a guy? And you're like, okay, let's go somewhere a little more private. So they go to this park, and she's in her leather dominatrix gear, and I know this all sounds really stupid, but that's part of the point. And a bunch of kids walk up to him, and they're like, why are you dressed like that, lady? And like, you're put on the spot, and you have to choose from multiple answers. Very stupid, very dumb, but the series would not be what it is without them. And, you know, there's something about the way the Yakuza games balance this, again, particularly the later ones, where these super serious stories and these super, honestly, fucking stupid stories somehow don't, like, they don't spoil each other. They mix well together, like peanut butter and jelly, and you're like, how does this work together? But also, damn, it works together. You don't know how, they somehow strike the perfect balance. It almost feels like a fluke sometimes, but you never come out of the side story and feel like your opinion of the main narrative is diminished, and you never feel like the main narrative is bearing down on your ability to enjoy these goofy side quests. They're like a nice breath of fresh air. You know, if you just come out of a very dramatic scene where some dude gets shot the heck up, you can just go like mess around and help some guy like ask out a girl he wants, you know, and that usually leads to something humorous. It just manages it so well, and both sides are so enjoyable. And a lot of the side quests do come down to just talking to a person, humorous dialogue exchange, go somewhere, get into a fight, beat it, and the story resolves, but it's a nice breath of fresh air. And Yakuza games are very good at giving you a lot of breaths of fresh air. There's a ton of side games. There's stuff like you know, bowling, darts, billiards. There's so many things I'm blanking. You can go fishing. You can go, in some entries, you can go play pachinko, and you can get into some more Japanese things, like there's karaoke. And in recent games, they've also been incorporating classic Sega games as arcade games. So Yakuza 0 lets you play Outrun, Space Harrier, Fantasy Zone, Hang On. I think Yakuza 6 is just straight up going to have Virtua Fighter 5's like arcade mode in there. Yakuza 5 actually had Virtua Fighter 2's arcade mode in there, and you could play it online. And Yakuza 5 also had what's that drum game? You know, it's like the two bongo drums in Japan, and you hit both and the thing. I can't remember the name of it, but it was like the first localized release of any game like that in years, and there just happened to be in Yakuza 5. Like, that gives you so many ways to like distract yourself. You can go to restaurants scattered around the city, and there's like completion points. You know, it's part of your overall completion percentage to go in and try like every menu item, and it gives you health back. So as you go through the story, you can, you know, like go to Shellac and try the stuff there. It's all so dumb, but it's so gripping, and like it's just, I just love checking off you know, completion boxes, and Yakuza just lets me do that. You know, like literally everything has a checkbox. If you go to a batting cage and try and hit home runs, there's stuff for getting certain points there. It's just, there's just so much to do. Like, when I 100%, or I didn't even 100% Yakuza 4, I just got the platinum trophy. I didn't technically 100% the game by the in-game standards. I definitely spent at least 100 hours on Yakuza 4. I got 120 hours in Yakuza 0. I've got around 60 in Kiwami. I forget how many in 3, you know, and 20 in 5, and I just got distracted with life from 5, or else I would have beaten that one. But you know, maybe I recommend Yakuza 0, and maybe you look at that $40-$50 price tag and you're like, I don't know, I haven't played the series, but trust me, there's so much game. If you watch someone play it on YouTube, you know, I have about a 50-minute chunk of me streaming Yakuza 5 for Fun the Charity Room 2016. If you just want to get in there and get a rough idea of what the side stuff is like, you know, feel free to jump in there. I've got footage in the background of this video. Maybe try Kiwami, because that's cheap, and kind of see how you like it. But no, that's not the series at its best. That's just a nostalgia look back at where it began, brought to today's standards in terms of mechanics and stuff. But there's just so much game there if you really dig into it. Major component of the series is the brawling. I think it is very fun, especially in recent games where you can mess around with different styles and stuff. But in tandem with the above point, you know, when you're spending hundreds of hours, eventually that combat just isn't made to last that long, and it can get a little tiring. But I still find that I don't mind really going through with it that much. There's all kinds of flourish special heat moves that are really fancy and context specific, like, oh, do you have a carrot in your pocket at this specific place in the city? Well, you can roll your fucking opponent up into a snowman and smash a carrot into the head, and that kills them, or, you know, knocks them out, right? There's so much stupid shit like that. There's things like, oh, are you holding a bicycle wheel? Well, you can smash it completely over your opponent's head and get it stuck around them, and then punch it. And it's like really stupid things like that. But, you know, they do put a lot in there to try and keep combat interesting, and how into that you get will probably depend on how much you like beat 'em up games. But there are stuff, you know, there's things like weapons you can equip, there's armor that can give you different abilities, there's an experience system and leveling up and new moves you can unlock and things like that. It all builds together very nicely. You know, that's up to you. I definitely wouldn't blame you if you couldn't hold through with that battle stuff for 80 hours, but I think it does a pretty good job of building up through the main story and letting you develop with it and really get used to it, and develop a way of fighting you like, while trying to keep it kind of interesting. Side point, great music in the series. Sega games generally have fantastic music. Yakuza is no exception. I particularly like Yakuza 4's soundtrack. So good. Oh my gosh, it is so good. This kind of ties into the asset reuse thing I mentioned earlier. Eventually the games would let you go into different sections of different cities, but the mainstay is Kamurocho, which I mentioned earlier. It's based on, I think it's Kabuchiko, or I forget the place in Japan. It's vaguely based on a red light district in Tokyo. For the most part, you're going back to, you're going to be in that city in every game. Stores are in the same places. The batting cage and bowling's generally always in the same place. You kind of learn where things are at, and games will introduce new things and new places. You know, Yakuza 4 lets you go on rooftops and underground the city, or underground in the city. Under the city, underground. That's probably what I meant to say. You know, so usually in games that would bother me, and I'd think that's really lazy, but in Yakuza, where it's so much about the growth of these characters and everything, the city kind of becomes a character too in a weird way. And it's really, actually, if you get really invested in the game, it's interesting to watch it evolve over time and be like, oh, you know, that construction crane was building something in this game, and now in this game, the project's actually finished and there's something there. You know, it's really weird things like that, and just watching the city grow and being like, oh, that sponsorship, actual real world restaurant isn't in this game. Now there's something else there. That's weird. It's just things like that. You know, it's I basically know Kamurocho like the back of my hand now. Like, I know where everything's at. I can get there in any game at this point. I know what I'm doing. I know where to go. If someone says go to Tenkaichi Street, I know where that's at. If someone says go to Pink Street, I know where Pink Street's at. You know, Pink Street, like, I get it. You know, I know where it's at. It's great. And it actually, you know, sometimes you feel a little sad. Like in Yakuza 0, your investment office is on the west side of the city. And in later games, you go there and it's like, oh yeah, this isn't anything I can like actually, you know, interact with now. Like, this is just something else completely now. Time has moved on, and that isn't around anymore. You know, it's just, it's so weird, but like, I don't know. I just really like it in this game. And it's just really fun just to watch everything grow and mature over time. Like I said, it's basically like my stories, my soap opera. You know, I always gotta know what's going on with these characters, and I'll always want to know. And you know, let's see. yeah, so we're 20 minutes in, so I figure if you're in this far, you either really like Yakuza or care about what my opinion, I guess. So I'll share something incredibly deeply personal with you, because I figure most casual people have probably bounced from the video by now. But in 2012, that was when I first played Yakuza 4. I was in a dark place. My parents had split, and my dad had left basically for another family, and he was the sole income source. And I had just graduated high school, and I was like, well, college is not on my cards now. Like, I gotta take care of my mom. We live far hours away from any other family. We're kind of out here by ourselves. So yeah, I was just in a dark place, and I found Yakuza 4 at Sam's Club for like $15, and I was like, I've heard about this. I don't know. I just need something, and I got so invested in Yakuza 4 that became like my escape when I needed it. I could always just dive into this other realm. I sound like some fucking like person on a news story, like, this loser goes to another world, the virtual world, to escape his problems. But that's what I did, and I think that's part of why I like these characters always doing the right thing so much, and these masculine figures always looking out for people, is because it was like a nice escape. And I was like, right, I can live out this fantasy here where good will always triumph over evil no matter what. And also there's a city here full of goofy shit I can lose myself in, and that really helped me a lot when things were looking grim. I adored Yakuza 4, and with some time I played the other games, and I've realized I just really liked them as games. It wasn't even so much that was the one I happened to latch onto. It's like I just happened to latch onto a fucking fantastic series, and I'm so thankful that I took that chance on it, especially back then, because 2012 was the start of like the dark ages for Yakuza. There was like a 3-year period after that where we didn't get Yakuza game localizations anymore, and it was like, are we even going to see the series in English anymore? Like, do I gotta learn Japanese and import these games to keep enjoying them? But thankfully, New Age Sega, after acquiring Atlas, very dedicated to Yakuza in the West. So, but yeah, I just figured, this is a very personal video, so I just figured I'd get very personal and say, like, Yakuza 4 will always hold a very incredibly special, close place in my heart, due to me finding it at that time. And it made me feel so much better at a time where I just felt lost at every way I looked. I felt lost, and it's one of those things that helped me reignite with a passion and helped me get back to feeling better again. It was like, right, yes, this stuff can be very powerful. This isn't just some dumb hobby or anything. Like, this is a true medium that can really help people kind of help find themselves, or at least fill the time until they can get the means to stand back up again. And so when you see me freaking out on Twitter about Yakuza, just know that it comes from a very, very deep place of love, and I'm always so excited to see what they do next, or what that studio does next, even if it's not Yakuza. Like, I don't know shit about Fist of the North Star, but they're making a Fist of the North Star game, so you can fucking bet I'll be all over that if they bring that west, because I gotta know what these guys are up to. I really do believe that they love what they do, and they know exactly what they're doing, and they make something hyper specific, but they make it so lovingly, and they make it so well, and I will always be there to see what they do next. So in closing, please play Yakuza. I didn't go into depth on any specific game here, because I figure if I'm going to do that, I'll just do a video about the game. I just wanted to talk about the series as a whole and talk enthusiastically about it, so you can feel it and feel like, man, video games, like, hell yeah, and hopefully, this helps spur you to try a game, or at least imprints it in your mind, so that at a point when you are ready to try the series, you'll be like, fuck, why didn't I do this sooner? Like, I should have listened to all these people talking about Yakuza. You can hire a chicken to be your real estate manager in Yakuza 0. Like, what more do you want? You can call them nuggets. Okay, I just scared that my Audacity stopped recording. But this is almost 25 minutes, so that's probably a great time to shut the fuck up about Yakuza. But, please play these games. I implore you. Even if you don't like them, just do it for me. Hopefully you at least see what I'm talking about. And, it motivates you at least, to, share a series you love that maybe not everyone has tried, and spread the goodwill, share good shit, you know, like, if you feel something's underappreciated, like, share that with people, you know, get that message out there, help people love what you love and see why they love it, you know. But now I'm off my soapbox, so I hope you all have a great day. Sorry about the lack of content lately. Life's been life, but hopefully I'll be doing more stuff like this just because it's easier on me, and hopefully more interesting for you as well. So let me know what you thought, and catch you next time. Thank you for watching. This video was generously supported by the following patrons on Patreon. Thank you.